Hi everyone, welcome to my review of James Edward Grant's Angel and the Badman from 1947. So yes, we are back once again, ready to discuss another John Wayne Western on the channel. This time around, Angel and the Badman. Kind of a lesser seen John Wayne Western, but it is, it was one that cropped up here and there, and I thought I'd give this a go a few days ago. Watched this for the first time, and of course, as with all the John Waynes, really, I want to kind of talk about them on the channel in some way. So yes, today we'll be talking about this film. There will be a spoiler warning for this discussion. If you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend seeing it first and then come back to this video, and we can go from there. We can talk about this film, your thoughts on this, John Wayne films, and just different westerns, of course, in the comments. So yes, with all that said, let's discuss my thoughts on this film, and there will be fairly brief thoughts, on this. I don't have loads to say about it, but it was a very interesting film, and one that I did enjoy as well. So yes, it's a very interesting film. I would say, the quality, of how I watched this, here and there, it kind of affected my experience. I will say, I did resort to streaming, and I do use streaming now and then when I have to, but for some reason, this was the worst, streaming, visual and audio quality, especially that I'd ever seen. And I did, as actually would, turn on the subtitles, of course, see if that would help. And for some reason, they were completely random at times. It seemed like someone was playing a prank. It could have been, AI, I suppose, but it was really, really bad. So it did kind of affect my experience, at least at first. I got used to it, and I guess, I missed a couple of moments here and there with the dialogue. It was very hard to understand, but for the most part, I did, hear the dialogue in this film, and there are a lot of moments in the film that I found myself, with the visuals as well, struggling. But I got there in the end, of course. But it did, I will say that, it did kind of affect my experience. It is on Blu-ray, of course, but I thought I can't buy all these films, of course, and it was kind of hard to get. It's not necessarily got a UK release, on Blu-ray, so I thought I'd have to just, go on streaming, of course, like I would, and it was a bit of an issue, of course, for me. But one day I will hopefully see this on Blu-ray and hopefully get a better experience in that sense. But overall, despite all that, despite my issues that I had, especially at first adjusting to this, the whole visual and audio, I didn't want to kind of change the film and kind of watch it at another point. I just wanted to watch this film and see what it was like, and I did enjoy this one despite all the the issues I've said about, and the kind of problems I had with the actual quality of the the visuals and the audio with this film. But I did enjoy it. I found it to be fairly engaging, and once again, it was really nice to see a John Wayne film that I hadn't seen before. This is a very interesting film. The plot, we have, of course, John Wayne playing Quirt Evans, and the opening of the film, as we know, is him, kind of going to this homestead, this Quaker family, and kind of is wounded, and of course his horse collapses, and then the family take him in, and Thomas, is kind of the head of the house, and they take him in and nurse him back to health, and from there we have this romance. Gail Russell, of course, playing Penelope, the younger daughter, of the family, and she essentially forms this relationship, romance between her and John Wayne, and it unfolds from there. We have the kind of the Quaker family lifestyle and their values, kind of. John Wayne, his character of Quirt, is kind of, assessing his life and looking back on things that he's done, and, as we know, kind of questioning himself and if, he can change and perhaps, take on the Quaker values of non-violence and, put his past behind him. So, on paper and the way it was done at first, the setup, very, very interesting, and, really commendable for a film to do this, and it's very interesting in the way, it started out, kind of his questioning, his values, and there was a bit back and forth, of course, between, the different opinions, as you would expect in this film, and from there we have, quite an engaging first act overall, once, of course, John Wayne, found once he got nursed back to health, there were some really nice, interactions, some comedy in this film that worked very well, and, I found just the family, the Quaker family, I did really, enjoy this kind of the way it's done. Irene Rich as well as Mrs. Worth, I found to be really a warm character, and a very nice performance as well. Some of the performances in this are very nice and very well done, and I just, in general, really enjoyed, the kind of family dynamic, and the kind of relationships that were forming between the different characters, including, of course, Quirt in that first, act or so, and once he gets nursed back to health, there's some things he tries to help out the family, and it's a very nice way in which this is done, and it has some comedy. It's got a few moments of tension as well. It's a very interesting way. A few sequences that kind of build on each other, and I think unfortunately the film does lose its way. I personally feel when we get to the kind of second half of the film, just below that, before that second half, it kind of goes off a bit meandering. Never quite regained that first act, the investment there, and just the charming interactions. I think there are attempts still, very commendable attempts to explore this really interesting idea of the Quaker family, of non-violence, of course, and John Wayne's character of Quirt, him being, of course, as they know, this kind of big gunslinger, of course, someone who is very famous, known for this, and they're trying to change him in some way, and he is, of course, questioning himself. It's a film that deals with morals very interestingly, but I think the consistency, of that, second half of the film, it kind of lost its way in that sense, and it wasn't as focused, on these themes. It was a bit meandering. I found there was a lot of things going on that didn't really, engage me as much, and I think for the most part, the romance is still, interesting when it's there, but it's not as, kind of focused. It's at times, the characters are kind of going off, and it's not really as interesting in the dynamics. A couple of sequences here and there that I just found myself to be thinking, what really, is this significant? Is it really, that important to have in the film? But I think overall, it was well shot. As I say, my experience, of watching this wasn't the best with the visuals and audio, but I did, I could tell the framing and all this, was very, very interesting. Some real nice landscape shots, and I did enjoy the music as well at times. And I think just in general, it's a well-made Western with some interesting concepts, but the execution, overall, consistently, I think, isn't quite, for my liking, and it does kind of fall apart, I personally feel, as the film goes on. But I did really enjoy the ending. We have, of course, Quirt going off there, and I think Carey in this film as well, as the marshal, I really, really enjoyed, his role in the film, and the interactions between him and Quirt, John Wayne, was very, very good. And I think that ending, when we have him and another character there as well, looking on John Wayne, and him going off, of course, with the Quaker family, and kind of to live out this kind of life of non-violence. I thought that was very good, but there was that feeling in me, and I thought, I wish this film had been just, at least in my opinion, more consistent, with the exploration of that theme, and the whole narrative was just up and down. It was very all over the place, and it's a shame because an ending like that and an outcome like that, and the way it started, I wanted to feel more, I guess, and the film does attempt to explore this in an interesting way, as I say, but I think the emotion would have been felt more if the film had been more consistent with the way these themes were done, and I just think slightly missed opportunity overall at times. But for what this film was, I did definitely enjoy this one. I thought the performances, as I say, were very good at times. Bruce Cabot as well, is in this film once again with John Wayne and Laredo Stevens, he plays. And of course, I enjoyed times the dynamic between those two as well. And but I do think it kind of again veered off, and it did start off a lot better. The scene in the house where we have, of course, John Wayne, sitting on the chair, and pointing the gun, at the men there, and they come in, and it's not actually loaded, of course. That was a very, cool scene, the way it was lit, just the setup there, and the dialogue. Probably one of my favourite scenes, in this film, and I just think the performances here, especially, were very, very good, as well. And I just enjoyed, a lot of the family as well, and just the way it was shown, the lifestyle. It was just very gentle at times, relaxing, and it was nice to see this kind of theme of non-violence and violence, of course, the clash, and how that was explored in the film through these these characters in this family, and this whole kind of viewpoint, and way of life, really. So a very interesting film. Definitely lacks consistency, and I think the second half, there was quite a lot of this I wasn't really engaged in that much, but I do think it started off a lot better, and it had a nice ending. The final shot was very nice. I felt, unfortunately, the film was a bit of a missed opportunity in many ways. But overall, it's definitely an okay film. It's got some solid moments, some interesting dynamics, and I think the performances are, quite strong at times, especially, of course, John Wayne, and I think as well Gail Russell, as kind of romance, I did enjoy that, especially, at first. Again, the film, it does have a disappointing second half, but overall, I do think this is, a film I'd recommend. Of course, I do look forward to seeing this on Blu-ray someday, down the line. But unfortunately, I did have to resort to streaming, and it was very, very. It was a shame that the actual quality of the on the streaming was so bad. It was just unbearable at times, particularly the audio. So it did kind of taint my experience a little bit, but I tried my best to stay focused, of course, and I did get most of the dialogue, but I will definitely be watching this again on Blu-ray. I just can't do that at the moment, buy all these Blu-rays. It is kind of unfortunate as well. It's not got a UK release, and it's kind of a bit more expensive, of course, to actually get. So I will be getting it at some point again, but nevertheless, I think I did, I tried my best. I did have a nice experience with this film, and it just wasn't a film that, at first, I was very invested, at times, but it kind of lost me along the way. So yes, overall, my final rating for this film is a 63%. So I think it's very solid in places. I think a 63, is a fine score from me. I just think this film could have been, good or more, considering how it started out. It's very enjoyable interactions, as I say, and the way, this this kind of narrative and the themes are set up were and established. I think were better than it kind of went as went through the rest of the film. I think the way things progressed, just the flow of the film was a bit all over the place, and a couple of sequences, as I say, that I didn't really get why they were really in the film, and they dragged on a bit, and I didn't really kind of for the narrative, the momentum of the film, and it kind of got a bit bogged down in places with the villains and all this, and different things going on there, as opposed to keeping up that really interesting character development and these values, this lifestyle, the exploration of that, the Quakers, of course. So I think it's a very commendable film. It's really well set up in places, but it isn't a one that is overall consistent enough for me to give it higher marks, but I do enjoy this film. It was a nice, pleasant film for the most part to watch. I enjoyed John Wayne, of course. Great to see this film, and again, a lesser talked about John Wayne film. So, Angel and the Badman, definitely a film I enjoyed. Definitely one that I would watch again. On Blu-ray. No doubt, a year or so down the line, I will be picking this up. I have to just see it on Blu-ray and see it in to a standard, of quality, at least, and again, I did get a good experience of this film, despite all the issues that I had to put up with. But I will be watching it again, on Blu-ray to give it, another go in that sense. But yes, I would definitely say this is an enjoyable film. Once again, performances, visuals, I think very much to praise, and it's this real interesting plot, quite a unique concept. I think John Wayne portrays this man very well. Someone who is wanting to leave, his past behind him and move on and become, non-violent and have this, peaceful life. I think it's very interesting the way John Wayne plays this. I think he's definitely to praise once again. Very, very good performance, and I did enjoy this film. Just not one that I, loved overall. Certainly not. But it was a nice watch, and would definitely watch it again. So yes, that's my thoughts. What do you think on this film? Have you seen this one? And I look forward to discussing this film in the comments with you, and all things John Wayne, westerns, of course. Once again, I will be leaving a link to my playlist for all the western reviews, content that I've done on the channel so far, and there'll be many, many more to come, of course, over time, which I look forward to massively. Love talking about westerns, one of my absolute favourite genres, in cinema history. So yes, I always enjoy talking about western films and John Wayne films as well. Massive John Wayne fan. So yes, it will be a pleasure to discuss this film in the comments. So yes, as always, take care and thanks for watching.